I didn't realize I was on mute. Hare Krishna devotees, please accept my humble obeisances. All goes Sri Prabhupada and Guru Maharaj. Let me change the speaker and microphone. Yes. So, I'm sorry we could not do the live session this morning because of Prabhuji not being available. But I wanted to share the recording as soon as possible so that you can make time sometime during the day to hear it. We'll start with prayers. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Cheva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayam Mudirayet Nashtaprayeshu Bhadreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Uttama Bhaktir Bhavati Nastiki Om Ajnanatimirandasya Gnananjana Chekshurunmilitam Yena Tasmai Sri Guruve Namaha Vanchakalpatarubhyascha Kupasandubhyevacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Namo Vishnupadaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhaktivedanta Swami Nityanamini Namaste Saraswati Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Paschatya Desatarini Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sri Advaita Gadadhara Sri Vasadi Gaura Bhaktavrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. So we're discussing Canto 6, Chapter 4 today. Beginning for 12 verses we'll discuss. So in the last 3 chapters, we heard about the pastime of Ajamila. So where Sukadeva Goswami described the glories of the holy name, the glories of associating with devotees like Vishnu Das for Ajamila, and how Ajamila achieved perfection by association of devotees and by taking up the devotion service process in a very short time, less than 2, in about 12 years is described. So now, this chapter, now in one sense, Bhagavatam could have concluded now, unless Parikshit Maharaj or the Sonak Rishi asked questions for Sudha Goswami like that. So in this section, we're starting from 4th chapter, 6th canto, 1st verse. So in this chapter, Parikshit Maharaj asked a question to Sukadeva Goswami. That is why now Srimad Bhagavatam is continuing. Otherwise, it would have ended here also. So that's why it's important for audience to be attentive and ask the right questions so that they can get nourished by Krishna Katha from the speaker. So in this case, Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami, you told about the secondary creation, Visarga, creation of the demigods, demons, human beings, animals, like that briefly in the 3rd canto, while describing about the 6th Manvantara. So now, I want to know more elaborately that subject matter, how the secondary creation happened. Secondary creation means the creation that Brahma does, like populating with all living entities in the world. How does Brahma do that? Through different progenitors or different Prajapatis, like Daksha is one example. So he's asking, I want to know more elaborately the subject matter about secondary creation, number 1. Number 1, he says, I want to know the potency of the Supreme Lord by which he brought the secondary creation. That means he just doesn't want to know technology for technology's sake. He wants to know what is the potency of Supreme Lord that caused the secondary creation also. That glory also he wants to know. Yeah? That is the devotees, they don't want to discuss mundane subject matter. They want to discuss subject matter that is related to devotees or the Supreme Lord himself, like that. So that's how the this first 2 verses start for this chapter, 4th chapter. Then, now the conversation goes to Sutta Goswami and Sonak Rishis. Sutta Goswami says, so after Sukadeva Goswami heard this question from Parikshit Maharaj, then he praised the question and then he started a reply. So if you notice, the conversation is between Sukadeva Goswami and Parikshit Maharaj. But Bhagavatam goes out from that conversation to appreciate the speaker or to appreciate the audience and how they're interacting between each other, like that. So that's why he's brought in back to the Sonak Rishi uh, at the sages of Nabicharanya who are hearing from Suta Goswami like that. So basically, Sukadeva Goswami appreciate the question. Why Sukadeva Goswami appreciate the question? Because it results in Krishna Kada, discussing Krishna Kada. Devotees love to discuss Krishna Kada. So that's why he's saying that. Now going to text number 4. Sukadeva Goswami started. He said, when the 10 sons of Prachinabarhi came out from the water after doing austerities for lots of years, then they saw that the entire surface of the world is covered with trees like that. Remember Prachetas, we already heard about them in the previous cantos, especially fourth canto we heard already about Prachetas. What we heard was Prachinabari was their father, and he was doing lots of Vedic sacrifices, animal sacrifices primarily, to help his citizens and country like that, or the kingdom like that. And that time, he gave the instruction to his children, Prachetas, to go and perform austerities so they can create progeny. See, whenever we're doing some service, it's good to prepare for that service by offering prayers to the acharyas, including Guru and our acharyas and Krishna, and by seeking blessings of the seniors and our spiritual master, and also by properly preparing for it, including any kind of austerities to purify ourselves also. So that's what Prachetas were doing. They went to purify themselves before they take up the service of creating progeny. So that time we heard in the fourth canto how Nardamani came to the rescue of Prachinabarhi, and he reminded him that the Karmakanda sacrifice that he's doing is not all in all. The best thing is to engage in devotion service to Krishna and go back to him in the spiritual world. So Prachinbarhi heard that, and he left the planet even before children came back, Prachitas came back to engage in austerities and to take up devotion service like that. So that is the background from fourth canto I was just referring to. Now, if you notice, the verse is describing how entire surface of the world was covered by trees. Sri Prabhupada is explaining why that is so. Because uh, the king left before even Pechadas came. So there's no king who is who's making sure that Vaishyas are doing their job to do agriculture like that. So Vaishyas have two main functions: Krishi, actually three: Krishi, Goraksha, and Vanijam. Prabhupada refers to first two here. In Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says Vaishyas do these two occupations, three occupations are there for Vaishyas. Krishi means agriculture, Goraksha means cow production, and Vanijam means trade or business like that. So, because there's no negligent government, that's why people were not doing agriculture. That's why the trees were overgrown, like that is describing. So, Prabhupada takes this opportunity to indicate how government or a king should make sure that Vaishyas are properly engaged in their occupation duties, and so that way agriculture is properly done, not neglect agriculture, encourage agriculture for people. That way, uh, food will be generated for everyone nicely. So abundant food will be there for everybody like that. That's the point. And another point Prabhupada is saying is that cow production is the most important thing. Animal production is generally the occupation of Vaishyas. But among animals, cows are the most important animal to be product. Why? Because cows give us milk, which is very valuable for our growth of our brain tissues to understand spiritual subject matter. Number one. Number two, um, cow's milk. Because cow is giving milk, they're considered like a mother for us. And cow's milk products are used for worshipping the deity, to do abhishek to deities. For Charanamritam, we have it after that. And then uh, cow's milk products are also used for uh, fire sacrifices, like putting ghee in the fire, like that. So, is very, very valuable. Cow products, cows are very, very valuable for spiritual culture and Brahminical culture, basically. Now, going to the text number 5. Yeah. So it's described in this case when the Prachitas saw that everything is covered by trees now. They cannot do agriculture anywhere. They need to clear up so that they can do agriculture. So they became angry. Why they became angry? Because they did long austerities like that. Is described. So Prabhupada, and what did they do because of that? Because they did long austerities, they had mystic powers. So they generated wind and fire from their mouths, it seems. And they started clearing the land by with the wind and the fire coming from the mouth. They started burning all the trees to ashes like that. Now, Srila Prabhupada takes the one point about uh, the contrasting jnanis who take up austerities versus bhaktas who do austerities. And the qualities of the jnanis, qualities of the devotees, he is contrasting in the purport. So here we heard in the verse that they became angry because of the long austerities. So that is the characteristics of jnanis. In fact, jnanis, when they do long austerities or hard austerities or difficult austerities, their heart becomes hard-hearted. Their heart becomes hard. So, which is not suitable for bhakti. Bhakti requires soft-heartedness. So, of course, anybody can start bhakti and become soft-hearted. Yeah. So, but Gnani's heart becomes hard. That's why they become angry. Whereas, if a devotee does a devotional austerity, then he actually develops good qualities by the mercy of Krishna, because Krishna decorates him with good qualities like compassion, tolerance, patience, like that, instead of becoming angry for everything like that. So that's the contrast Prabhupada is making in the purport. And then to explain that uh, further, Srila Prabhupada is referring to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, where he's saying, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu gave us this verse, Trinadapi Sunichena Tarorapi Sahishnina Amanena Manadena Kirtanaya Sadahari. When we are preaching, naturally there will be people who will be opposing us, who will make arguments for everything and anything sometimes. Then we need to be learned to be tolerant. Instead of blasting them left and right, we need to be learned to be tolerant. Prabhupada is writing in the purport, because that is important to grow our mission like that. So we should not become angry while preaching. That is the other point Prabhupada is making. So when we are becoming tolerant like that, humble like grass and tolerant like a tree, then we can preach the glories of the Lord without difficulty. So these are important qualities. Humility and tolerance are not only important qualities to chant continuously, but also important qualities to preach to others also. That is a lesson we are learning here also. So, so we need to cultivate that humility and tolerance in our devotee life. That way, we can do nice service for Krishna. Going to text number 6. So, when these Prachitas released wind and fire from their mouths and burning all the trees to ashes, that time the moon god, his name is Soma, king of moon planet, he came. He, in this verse is described not only king of the moon planet, but he's also the king of the trees also. And when he saw that all the trees are getting burnt to ashes by Prachitas, he felt sympathetic for the tree, for the trees, because he's the maintainer of the trees, moon planet, moon god. So that's why he's feeling sympathy for them. And then he wanted to pacify the anger of Prachetas. So Prabhupada is writing in the purport how the moon god is referred as not only the king of the moon planet, but the king of the trees also. That aspect is describing. And then it's describing, if moon god is the king of all the trees, then moon planet also should have trees, right? If somebody is the king of trees, then you should have trees also there in moon planet. Where scientists cannot see that currently. Why? Because they don't have access to the inner regions of the moon planet to see the full glory of the moon planet. That's the point Prabhupada is making the purport. Going to text number 7. Uh, so moon god Soma is talking to Prachetas. He's saying, you should not kill these poor trees. Why? Because your duty is to wish that citizens is to wish the citizens all prosperity and to act as their protectors. So your duty as a king's will be is to ensure that citizens have everything they need to nourish themselves, have good prosperity, and you're supposed to protect them like that. He will elaborate on these points later on, again in the coming verses. So the point is, Prabhupada emphasizes one theme in this set of verses is that when king is supposed to protect the citizens, praja. But what does praja means? Anybody who is born in the kingdom, whether it can be human being, it can be animal, it can be bird, it can be insect. Everybody should be protected like that. Is describing. Uh, Prabhupada is describing. So nobody should be killed unnecessarily. That is the point Prabhupada is making in the purport. Now going to text number 8. So the previous point is elaborated here. Seventh point, which is said, you need to protect the citizens and you need to give prosperity, ensure citizens have all the prosperity like that. 2 points are mentioned, right? So in the 8th verse, yeah, the ensuring prosperity for the citizens is being described more further in 8th verse, where he's saying, Supreme Lord himself created all these trees. For what purpose? He created these trees and vegetables so that they can be eaten by other living entities. That means if you cut down the trees that Supreme Lord arranged, you are denying the certain prosperity for your citizens. Like that is describing. Because citizens are some, for example, in the coming verses, it describes more how trees are needed for as food for different kinds of animals and birds like that. So, point is, if Prachitas kill all the trees, their citizens only will suffer for food. Citizens include non-human beings also. Now, text number 9, this verse is describing how, by nature's arrangement, the fruits and flowers that come on the trees are food for insects and also birds, like that. And then similarly, the grass that is growing on the ground is food for legless living entities like insects, like that. And then, yeah, for grass, oh, okay, grass and insects are food for four-legged animals like cows and buffaloes is described. And then animals that cannot use their front legs as hands, that means animals that cannot use like hands like that, right? They're four-legged animals, but they cannot use the first two front legs as hands like that. Those are food for animals that have claws like tigers, like that is described. Because tigers not only use their legs for walking, they use their legs like hands also to catch the prey, to attack like that. So, and then goats, deers, other four-legged animals like that, and food grains are meant to be for the human beings. So Prabhupada emphasizes this point here, that 2 points Prabhupada is making here. One is that meat eating is not for everybody. And even if somebody has to eat meat, they'll be eating only animals like goat, but not the cows, like that Prabhupada is making point. Because verse is saying that four-legged animals and also grains are food for human beings. Somebody may say, see, Shastra is authorizing that we can eat meat like that. But Shastra is vast. So the other points of Shastra tells what kind of food is suitable for which Varna and Ashrama of the human beings like that, especially Varna. For example, what kind of food is suitable for Brahmanas, what kind of food is suitable for Kshatriyas, Vaishyas, and Sudras, like that it describes. So, so in that sense, Prabhupada is writing, the higher classes of society, especially Brahmanas, Kshatriyas, and Vaishyas, they normally don't eat meat. Kshatriyas are exceptions sometimes when they go for hunting to keep up their skill of fighting with others for the being prepared for the war, right? So sometimes they hunt and sometimes they eat also, it seems, animals. But Brahmanas are never meant to eat like that. And then Vaishyas too. And then, but Sudras may sometimes eat, Sudras eat animals or meat, like goats, like that. But cow killing, cow eating is prohibited in scriptures. So that is never allowed like that. Prabhupada is writing over for us to clarify. So, um, because cows are very valuable for us, like we discussed, they supply milk for us, which nourishes the brain and helps us to understand spiritual subject matter. They're like our mothers, and we use cow products for different spiritual sacrifices and deity worship like that. So that's why, first of all, meat eating is not for everybody. It's for people with very, very low consciousness, and that also should be regulated. And then, second of all, is even if somebody is meat, don't eat cow, because that is the worst sin they can do, killing of cow. Because if somebody kills a cow, they must suffer for as many years as there are hairs on the body of the cow. Prabhupada is writing. So you can imagine so many millions of lifetimes uh, they need to live if they kill a cow like that. And we also know from Manu Samhita that somebody kills an animal, their next life they are getting killed by that animal like that. That means we take a human form, animal form again. That's a danger. Going to text number 10. Now in 9, he described how Supreme Lord arranged food for all living entities. There's non-moving living entities, he arranged them like insects or certain insects or even non-moving like trees. Um, trees, and we discuss how fruits and flowers are food for insects and birds like that. So for small living entities are also, and for big living entities also, Krishna has arranged food. Then what is the food for trees and plants? He arranged water from the earth, minerals from the earth like that. So now text number 10. In this one is reminding, Soma, moon god is reminding Prachetas that your father and Supreme Lord, both of them ordered you to create progeny, create praja, to create population, to populate the universe. Then, if you burn the trees to ashes, then how will you maintain your descendants and subjects? Because you need some trees for maintenance. Because food is required for some of the prajas like birds and flowers, for example, birds and insects, for example. So you need to maintain them. So if you burn off all the trees, how will they live? Like that, Soma, moon god is reminding them. In the 11th verse, he further describes them to follow the example of their father, grandfather, and ancestors, great grandfathers, who maintained all the praja nicely, all the men's, animals, and trees nicely. So you should also follow them like that is describing. So unnecessary anger is not good for your duty. So that's why you control your anger like that is requesting moon god, Soma. So Prabhupada is writing that exalted royal families are conscious that they should give protection not only to human being but for other living entities also, like animals and birds like that also. So that is the one good thing about monarchy. One king follows his father, grandfather, how they did. They want to preserve their legacy. So that's the point Prabhupada is making like that. So similarly, when we maintain certain good values as parents and good traditions and good practices in our lifestyle, then our children naturally will inherit, will want to follow those practices, traditions, and also values that we have, even if we're not there. Let us say we may we showed by example and we trained our children with certain values. Then even if we die, our children will remember those values and do them because they want to keep the prestige of the family. They want to keep the values their parents loved like that. So that's the other thing. Now we need to teach our children values and we need to be a good example of those values also for our children. So going to the next verse, the last verse for the day. Still, Moon God is speaking to the Prachetas. He gives 5 examples of how different people are offering protection. Remember, whole sixth canto is about protection of Supreme Lord also. So now he's saying, as king, you need to protect the subjects or citizens, including animals, insects, like that. So to illustrate that point, he's giving 5 examples. He's saying how parents like father and mother are maintaining the children, and eyelids are protecting the eyes. How husband is the maintainer and protector of a wife, and a householder maintains and protects the beggars. So, and how learned people are protecting the ignorant, like that is describing. Similarly, king is to give protection to all the subjects in this kingdom, not just human beings only, including trees. They should give protection. That's why you should not destroy these trees, he's saying. Prabhupada elaborates on one point of the translation, which is about how uh, householder is the maintainer and protector of beggars, it's saying, right, in the translation. Prabhupada elaborates on that point, saying that actually householders are meant to give charity to maintain brahmanas and sannyasis, like that. So those are the ones that we need to take care mainly. Of course, we also know from Varnashrama Dharma that householders are Grihastha people in Grihastha they maintain brahmacharis, vanaprasthas, and sannyasis, like that also. But charity is one of the main thing that Grihasthas are to do. For example, Grihasthas have a duty to give charity for propagation of bhakti, like for Sankirtan movement, for operation of the temple, for spreading Krishna conscious movement through book distribution, through Harinam Sankirtan, through Prasadam distribution, for organizing festivals to attract others to Krishna consciousness, like that. So that's the other point Prabhupada is making in the purport. So essentially, so far today we learned that how first thing is Parikshit Maharaj asked Sukadeva Goswami to explain more about the secondary creation, to continue how population was populated after Prachetas from Daksha onwards, like that. So then Sukadeva Goswami started to describe how Daksha part 2 was born before he tells how the population further created by Daksha. Is describing how Daksha was part 2 is born to Prachetas. To describe that is explaining some background, how Prachetas came out and they saw whole land is filled of trees. With anger, they're destroying the trees. That time moon god came and he tries to pacify him. How did he pacify him? First of all, Supreme Lord created all these trees for protection and for nourishment of citizens, like that. So second of all, he said, you as a king has a duty to protect all the citizens, including the trees also, number one. And also he said, you should follow your ancestors because they gave protection to everybody. You should also give protection to everybody. And then he said, if you cut down all these trees, then who will, uh, then you are depriving of the food for some living entities. Because if trees are not there, insects and birds living will be very difficult. So you're depriving of them. That means you're not protecting their interest, their prosperity of their living entities, like that is describing. So that's so he's encouraging not to become angry, control his anger, and rationally stop the fire, considering that it is harming the trees which he is supposed to protect, and is harming other living entities because they will not get any food anymore. So that's what we heard today. We'll pause there. श्रीमद् भागवतम की जय, श्री प्रपाद की जय। वंशकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्येव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। Thank you, devotees.